Imagine a man so blinded by his own depravity that he believed anything you told him. A man who bragged about his wealth while living in his parents' basement, preying on young women from behind a screen. He thought he was a predator, but he didn't realize he was walking into a trap involving household spices, a wooden spatula, and a fake German spanking film. By the time we were done with Farmer Bob, his nose was bleeding, his pride was shattered, and he was the laughingstock of the entire digital underground. If you've ever seen a bully get exactly what's coming to them and felt that warm glow of justice, you're in the right place. Today's story is a deep dive into the early lawless days of the internet, where we had to take justice into our own hands. Before we reveal how we broke this creep spirit, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We deal in pure, unadulterated vindication here. Let's get into it. The year was 1999. To some of you, that sounds like ancient history. To me, it feels like yesterday. The air smelled like ozone from oversized CRT monitors, and the soundtrack of our lives was a screeching, rhythmic handshake of a 56K dial-up modem. This was the era of the before time, when the internet wasn't a polished mall owned by 3 corporations. It was a sprawling, unmapped wilderness. Back then, we didn't have Facebook or Discord. We had HTML-based chat rooms. They were basic, clunky, and completely unmoderated. You didn't register an account. You just typed in a nickname, and you were there. It was a pinnacle of free speech, but it was also a playground for the worst humanity had to offer. Because there was no data logging and no real-life consequences, the shadows of these chat rooms were crawling with creeps. Their weapon of choice was the whisper function, the prehistoric version of a DM. You'd be having a perfectly normal conversation about music or movies in the main chat, and suddenly, your screen would flicker with a private message that only you could see. More often than not, it was something graphic, something unsolicited, or a request for an email address, so they could send you a low-resolution, pixelated photo that no one ever asked to see. Because the developers didn't care, we, the users, had to become the law. We formed a community called The Attic. It was a private website, a sanctuary for those of us who just wanted to hang out without being harassed. We had member lists, netiquette, guides, and most importantly, a blacklist. If a creep started targeting people, we'd coordinate. Imagine a digital firing squad. 20 of us would simultaneously flood a creep screen with hundreds of whisper messages using Control+V. We'd wall of text them until their browser froze or their dial-up connection gave up the ghost. In this world, my girlfriend at the time was a legend. She was 21, sharp-tongued, and had a creative streak for cruelty that earned her the nickname more evil than the devil. We had met at one of our community's physical meetups, one of those rare, magical weekends where people from all over the country would converge on an amusement park to turn digital friendships into real ones. She was the guardian of the attic, and that's when Farmer Bob appeared on our radar. Bob was different from the usual toxic trolls. He was slippery. He didn't come in swinging. He played the long game. He managed to charm his way into our community's inner circle without raising any red flags. But then the whisper started. Younger members, some of them barely in their teens, started reporting weird emails. They felt uncomfortable, but they couldn't quite put their finger on why. Bob was a slow-burn predator, and that made my girlfriend's blood boil. We decided that a simple chat flood wasn't enough for this guy. He didn't just need to be kicked out. He needed to be dismantled. We began the sting operation with a classic bait-and-switch. My girlfriend created a new, naive persona, a newbie who seemed lost in the chaotic world of chat. It took Bob less than 10 minutes to bite. As they talked, we sat huddled around the glow of the monitor in her apartment, the blue light reflecting off our faces as we watched his whispers roll in. He was a fascinating study in low-intelligence arrogance. He called himself a wealthy cattle farmer, a man of status and means who owned vast swaths of land in the rural countryside. "The females love me," he bragged in broken, clumsy sentences. He told us he always wore traditional wooden shoes, clogs, and claimed that women found the sight of him in those shoes absolutely irresistible. He was a caricature of a human being, lacking both basic education and any semblance of social grace. But as the days went on, his lies started to fray at the edges. One night, while he was busy trying to impress my girlfriend with his wealth. He accidentally let slip that his parents would be out of town for the weekend, so he'd have the farm to himself. Wait, my girlfriend typed to me in a separate window. Didn't he say he owned the farm? The guy was a fraud, a lonely, delusional creep living in his parents' house, pretending to be a rural tycoon to trick young women. The realization didn't make us pity him. It made us want to break him. My girlfriend got bored of the slow play. She decided to test just how far his stupidity went. She told him she was interested in meeting up, but there was a catch. She claimed she was a party girl, and that she only got in the mood if there was cocaine involved. Bob's response was pathetic. He immediately folded on the wealthy act, claiming he couldn't afford real coke because the cattle market was down. But he didn't want to lose his chance with a hot city girl. That's when the trap was set. "Don't worry, Bob," she messaged him. "I have a secret recipe. My friends and I do it all the time. It's a DIY version that hits just as hard, but it's way cheaper. All you need is baking soda and vanilla sugar. 3 parts soda, 1 part sugar. The sugar gives a nice aftertaste, and the soda gives you that rush when it hits your system." We held our breath. This was the moment of truth. Surely no one, no matter how uneducated, would believe that snorting household baking ingredients would get them high. It was a joke. It was a blatant, ridiculous lie. Bob replied, "Oh, I totally forgot about that trick. Thanks for reminding me. I'll make a batch right now to test it out." We stared at the screen in stunned silence. He was actually going to do it. 3 days passed. We didn't hear a word from Bob. We figured he'd tried it, realized he was an idiot, and disappeared into a whole shame. But then the email arrived. It was written in all caps, a frantic, vibrating mess of text. "You bitch. My nose is bleeding. I had to go to the clinic. You tricked me." He was livid. Apparently, snorting a heap of alkaline baking soda and granulated sugar does result in a euphoric rush. It results in chemical irritation, a shredded nasal lining, and a very confused doctor at a rural walk-in clinic. Most people would have stopped there. We had caused him physical pain and a medical bill. That's a win in anyone's book. But my girlfriend? She wasn't finished. She saw an opportunity to take the gaslighting to a level that would make a psychologist weep. She replied with feigned shock, "Bob, you must have done the ratio wrong. I use that mix every single day. In fact, it's the only way I can get through my work days." Bob, desperate for a connection and somehow still falling for it, asked what she meant by work. This is where the story goes from petty to pro. My girlfriend told him that she had a side gig. She claimed she was a star in German amateur spanking videos produced for European tourists. It was a niche market, she explained, and very lucrative. Bob's creep brain went into overdrive. He forgot all about his bleeding nose. He wanted in. He begged to see a sample of her work. He even offered to buy her films. "Okay," she told him. "I'll send you a trailer for my latest hit, Spanking Main Cheese. But only if you promise to try the DIY mix again. You have to get the ratio right this time, or you won't be up enough to appreciate the film." We had to produce the video. This was 1999. We didn't have iPhones. We had a bulky, handheld camcorder and a dream. We recruited her younger brother and his best friend. Her brother had long, curly hair, just like hers, in the low-light, grainy resolution of a 90s web video. He could pass for her if the camera stayed back. The set was her bedroom. Her brother sat on the edge of the bed. His friend laid across his lap, stomach down. Both were fully clothed, but we framed the shot to look professional. My girlfriend's brother picked up a wooden kitchen spatula. I stood behind the camera. My job? Sound effects. I licked my hands and clapped them together in a rhythmic, wet thwack, 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 to simulate the sound of skin-on-skin contact. Meanwhile, my girlfriend and I stood in the background, shouting gibberish that sounded vaguely German. Ja, gut, das ist wunderbar. Spankin'. The actors mimed their mouths to the nonsense. The resulting video was a disaster. It was shaky, the acting was horrific, and the spanking was clearly a wooden spoon hitting a pair of blue jeans. It was the most obvious fake in the history of the internet. We sent the file to Bob. We waited. We expected him to come back with more rage. We expected him to realize that he'd been snorting baking soda and watching a teenage boy hit his friend with a spatula while people yelled Wunderbar in the background. But the silence was absolute. Maybe it was a video that did it. Maybe, as he watched that grainy, flickering footage of a German film that looked suspiciously like a suburban bedroom, the last remaining gear in his head finally clicked into place. Or maybe the second round of baking soda finally finished the job. We never heard from Farmer Bob again. Not under that name and not under that email. Our addict community remained the safest place on the web because we had sent a message. If you come for our members, we won't just block you. We will make you the star of your own personal, humiliating tragedy. Looking back nearly 30 years later, I think about the psychology of a man like Bob. He was so desperate for power over females that he was willing to bypass every instinct of self-preservation. He snorted a kitchen pantry because a girl on the internet told him to. He believed in a German fetish industry that didn't exist because he wanted it to be true. Justice in the digital age is often fleeting. But for one weekend in 1999, justice tasted like vanilla sugar and sounded like a wet hand clap. The internet has changed, but the Farmer Bobs of the world haven't. They still hide in the shadows, waiting for someone they think is weak. But there's one thing Bob learned. It's that the people you think you're hunting might just be the ones leading you into the trap. So, what's the most creative way you've ever seen a creep get shut down? Have you ever had to take justice into your own hands? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Don't forget to like this video if you think Bob got exactly what he deserved, and subscribe for more stories of exquisite revenge. Until next time, stay safe out there.